Now then, let's look back on the weekend's hurling and, it was another weekend which caught us by surprise in several ways. Tipperary in Munster, 4 points after 2 games, sitting pretty. Clare will be pretty happy with how the weekend went as well. They're on 2 points after 1. Cork on 2 points after 2. And Limerick 0 for 1 at this stage, which caught everyone by surprise. Waterford have played 2, they're on 0 points. We have Nicky English with us. You're there, Nicky?
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Tommy, you're there?
Yeah, good evening, lads.
So let's start with Limerick 119, Cork 126 at the Gaelic Grounds. Nicky, predictions make fools of us all.
For sure, hurling makes a fool out of us all, and I had a lot of faith in Cork before 4 o'clock the previous Sunday, and after the Tipperary match, I had very little, if any, faith in them, to be honest. I thought Limerick's form would carry on from the league final. I thought Cork didn't show a whole lot of application, etc., and that it was fairly clear cut that going down to with the home game for Limerick that Limerick would come through that. And you have to hand it to Cork. They didn't make changes during the previous game against Tip when they probably were crying out to make changes, but maybe the man that they wanted as centre back was up in the terraces, and he came in. Mark Ellis came in, did superbly. The Owen Cadigan's form, continued, as did Niall O'Leary at cornerback, and their defence looked completely solid in the Gaelic grounds, whereas it had been completely at sea the previous week. They brought Aidan Walsh into the forwards, and while he didn't contribute a whole lot or anything in the scoring sense, he was strong and abrasive, and he won a lot of ball and manned up to the physicality of Limerick, and which, the previous physicality of Limerick. And in around the middle third, where Cork were desperate against Tipperary, they won no rucks, they didn't challenge hard enough, they were knocked out of Tipperary's way in many cases, and their touch was terrible yesterday. They were superb, the likes of Daniel Carney. Bill Cooper, of course, added a huge amount, and we probably underestimated his loss and the impact of his loss in the warm-up on their whole kind of build-up and their whole... maybe that was one of the reasons that they were so jittery the previous Sunday. But in any event, I didn't see it coming, and hats off to John Myler and the Cork management and the Cork players. Like, they fronted up hard, and they showed really why they were close enough to winning the All-Ireland last year, and on that form will be a force to be reckoned with again.
Tommy, I heard John Myler interviewed just on the stroke of full time, and he's in the full throes of victory, and he said, I picked a team for work rate. That was the first thing I did this week. We picked a team for work rate, and that was the galling thing missing last week, and geez, they had it this, like 7 days later. It's amazing what a week of being told the work rate was poor and, the intensity was down can do. Hurling is a very reactive sport in that way.
It is, Joe, and I suppose this was demonstrated in the first couple of minutes. Conor Lehan and Patrick Horgan went for the one ball. Both of them kind of nearly tripped over each other trying to win the ball. And while an easy score was on for either of them, it kind of messed up that chance a little bit. And most people would say in that instance, maybe are they trying to be too selfish? Are they looking for their own score? Absolutely not. A day like yesterday, it sparked to me just guys that were just mad for the ball, hungry, ravenous, after coming out of maybe a week-long, I suppose, people criticising them, and John Myler probably criticising them. And I think that interview says it all, really, Joe, in what he said. He picked it on work rate. And you could nearly compare the Tipperary team and the Cork team. No one will ever question their skill, their movement, their ability to put the ball over the bar. They'll always score huge scores. The question is whether their work ethic, whether their work rate will be up to scratch day in, day out. And Cork proved yesterday, when their work rate is up, they're a match for anybody. This is a team as well, I suppose, who will probably be a bit disappointed in the criticisms they receive, because in Munster, they have been unbeaten for the last couple of years. They've won 2 Munster titles. They were unlucky last year not to get to an All-Ireland final. So I'd say they will be disappointed, but at the same time, the criticisms were very real. They were very true. And they probably possibly no motivation was even needed in the dressing room before the game, because if John Myler said that to the guys during the week, I'm picking you guys not on skill, not on speed, on work rate, well, in systems, where you're going to run for a puck out, they all go out the window then for a start. Now, just for a start. And that's why you've seen them guys tripping over each other, and we've seen the result. And the opposite side of that then is Limerick, Joe, you know, and I was speaking to you yesterday. I don't know, did I say it correctly, but I was after reading about Johan Cruyff during the week, and he was comparing winning to opening a bottle of carbonated water. That when you open it, a little bit of gas comes out, and it's very hard to get the same amount of gas there again. Well, Limerick have been winning since last, I don't know when. They've won the Fenway Classic over in Boston. They've won the All-Ireland. They've won the National Hurling League. I think Cork were the only team to beat them in the league. So these guys, they have probably no, you know, when you lose a match, Nicky would know it well. When you lose a match, or if you play it badly, or if your opponent gets the better of you, no one even needs to say anything to you. It's in your gut. You just feel it when you're going to bed, when you go training the following day. You don't even have to say anything to yourself. You just, with everything that's inside you, you're going to win the next ball. And I think that probably went out of Limerick through no fault of their own. And this could be a lucky thing for Limerick, because it'd be worse if it happened to them in an All-Ireland semi-final when there's no second chance.
Well, it's hard to replicate the hurt, isn't it? It's hard to replicate what was brewing in Cork for a week, no matter how well things are going. John Kiley said, Nicky, we just weren't on the money today. Even in the first half, there was uncustomary missed pickups, missed touches, missed drop balls, missed hand passes. There was a litany of stuff that we would just normally do very well, but which we had to work twice as hard to do anyway, half right today. And we could see there was a certain degree of finding it difficult to get into our rhythm. And it's, I mean, look, you've been there on a touchline, and I'm sure going, why is this happening? Things seem to be going very well. It's one of those things which is difficult to explain in sport, but they were off Limerick, as good as Cork were, and Cork probably, you know, forced them off a little bit, but Limerick were still off even by their own standards.
No, definitely, and a good bit off by their own standards. So as Tommy said, they have the glow of medals. Like not alone did they win the All-Ireland, but they came on and won the league after that. And, you know, a lot of the talk was about winning the Munster. I heard a lot of talk last week about, you know, they wanted to win the Munster Championship. But, you know, they had, it's very, very hard just to, the system is brilliant at the moment in the Munster and Leinster Championships. But in a way, there's still a bit of unfairness, because Cork had a match already, and they saw what was wrong. They got an opportunity to fix it going into the Limerick match, and they had all the criticism ringing in their ears. Where Limerick were coming in, they were it was 7 weeks since they won the league final. So you say, well, they've had the league final. But really, I suppose in reality, they played Waterford in the league final. They played Dublin and Laois in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. And those, you know, with all due respect, they're not Cork, you know, at the moment, those teams. And you wonder whether that was competitive enough. And, you know, there's an awful lot goes on then with the cup. If you haven't won the All-Ireland for a long time, you know, there's been great praise to Limerick. They've handled themselves fantastically, but they've gone to every school. Some of them have gone to, you know, hospitals, nursing homes. That all has to be done, and rightly so, it has to be done, because there's great excitement within the county. But all that takes away, as Tommy described, that bit of fizz, that bit of energy, and then you face the most dangerous opponent you could, who have a match previously the week before and come out with their backside stinging from criticism. And, you know, Limerick they were off, but then Cork really drove at them and knocked them about and never really let them settle on any ball. They were able to manage Cian Lynch in the middle of the field, and Limerick's half forward line of, you know, Morrissey and Hegarty and the physicality of their half back line that we had seen to great effect all through the league in the All-Ireland, that was completely negated. Cork drew him out the field. Daniel Carney was running amok, and the ball was Anthony Nash was just lacing puck outs down into the full forward line. I mean, it's not what the textbook says you keep away from the full forward line, but he was dropping it down to the space in front of Aidan Walsh, etc. And the most unbelievable thing about the match was that with about 10 minutes to go, Cork were only 5 or 6. You know, they weren't 15 points ahead, because you know they deserve to be that much ahead, and you know they just totally outplayed Limerick yesterday.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that Limerick will improve because of the match. They'll have to, because on that form yesterday, that wouldn't just be good enough at all, because they didn't, all the stuff that brought them to the All-Ireland last year, that desire that got them out of Kilkenny in Thurles, that desire that got them out of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, when Graham Mulcahy crashed into Mark Coleman, and that was totally absent yesterday.
Yeah, well, you brought me to our next question, Tommy, which is how worried Limerick fans should be. And there is always an element of trying to rationalise things afterwards, which is what we're doing here. We're talking about, well, Limerick, as opposed to being fresh, which we would have said last week, and things bubbling away lovely in training, suddenly it's a big disadvantage to not get a game and you're coming in a little bit cold, and suddenly the bringing the cup around and the winning the All-Ireland and winning the league goes from getting pressure and a monkey off your back and giving you a sense of confidence to being something that you now have to handle. And we can almost switch every objective thing, and depending on how the result goes, we can say, well, that was a good thing and that was a bad thing. And we don't know, has the cup drained them, bringing the cup around to schools drained them in any way, or has it just made them feel good and prouder than ever to play for Limerick and hungrier than ever to win? We don't actually know. What I think we can presume, though, is that Limerick are going to get much better.
Yeah, well, sure, you would hope so from a Limerick point of view. Listen, you don't turn into a bad team overnight, Joe. So they have been winning throughout the league. And still, the one thing you would say about them, Nicky was right, they have been great ambassadors. But then they were able to produce these hungry performances, which I was surprised at during the whole of the National League. For guys that were only after winning their first All-Ireland after so many years, how they were staying so hungry and hungry and hungry.
And what we heard then was it was the strength of squad. Like all the best teams, they weren't motivated by external factors. It was about keeping your place almost.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I was surprised at yesterday. There was only one change from the All-Ireland as far as I could see yesterday. That was Peter Casey in instead of Seamus Flanagan. Tom Condon would have played most of the league when Mike Casey was out injured. But were those 15 guys that were starting yesterday, were those the guys that were putting up their hands and saying, listen, we are the best 15 hurlers in Limerick, pick us? Or was it a case of John Kiley and his management team saying, well, these guys, they didn't let us down last year. They didn't let us down in the Fenway Classic. They didn't let us down in the National League. So we're going to go with these guys. So I would say John Kiley maybe will look at that and say, listen, because he seems to be very professional. He'll question whether he is putting out the guys that are in the best form, because, they have the world of talent. They have Barry Murphy, they have Pat Ryan, they have Shane Dowling, they have, Tom Condon, they have, Paddy O'Loughlin. Like, they have the panel, there's no doubt about that. But maybe for these guys, it might be time to introduce one or two of them into the starting lineup to put pressure on the guys that were starting. Now, listen, who knows? They could have been the best guys going forward. But I think, Joe, I'd nearly be happier if I was a Limerick fan now, because now they're after getting the kick in the backside that they needed. The other thing, I suppose, Joe, is the whole country was lauding their style of hurling for the last 12 months and how they were playing the perfect game. So maybe, that might have maybe played in their minds that every ball had to be a perfect ball.
Right.
Like, if you look at the Bill Cooper goal, he drove the ball in. It was kind of Anthony Nash coming out with the ball. The Limerick guys took it off him. Great work rate. The ball then was flicked out to Bill Cooper out in midfield. He just drove it in long into the middle, and Pat Horgan flicked it down and got a goal out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Same with Declan Hannon. The Limerick goal itself was a miss-hit, it looked like, from Declan Hannon. And next minute, Graham Mulcahy got the goal. So the odd time, it doesn't have to be the perfect ball. Just drive it into the full forward.
Yeah. I know you've to run out the door for training, so we'll let you go. Make this answer as short as you want so you're not late. But you were at Semple Stadium for us, so you saw Tipperary back up the performance from round one. What jumped out at you? I know you were really impressed when we spoke yesterday. Yeah,
it was just their brilliance with the ball and their brilliance without it, really. Was it their running? Was it their movement? Was it, like, we talk about work rate, right? And people can't get carried away either. Work rate is your foundation in your house. So it's just the starting point.
Yeah.
It's not the end point. So they have the starting point now, but their end point is spectacular. Like Bubbles, who would you like to mark? Like, you can't man mark any of these guys. You take, for example, they put Conor Gleeson from Waterford back on Bubbles, back in the full back, as Bubbles actually started full forward. Conor Gleeson didn't look terribly comfortable as a full back as opposed to out the field. So he was your man marker, but they had so many other stars. Now it's not just good enough to have one man marker. You need 6 man markers against that tip forward line. So it was just the genius of John McGrath. Like, I'm a big admirer of John McGrath because you just hear what he does for his club, Lochmore, Castleiney as well, all the McGraths. But John in particular is just outstanding. His ability to score goals. You have Jason Ford, who was probably under Seamus Callanan's shadow for the start of his career, and now he's up there competing with him, putting up huge scores. So I think, Joe, like, I would have been a big criticiser of the sweeper systems, the swarm tactics, the defensive systems. I suppose the Tips and the Corks, they're the guys that make me fall in love with the game of hurling, because you look at the excitement when the ball goes into the full forward line, Joe. Like, the crowd are on the edge of their feet. Bubbles got cheered off yesterday. It was like a winning goal in a Munster Championship game alone. That's the buzz that these guys bring to the game. So it's just the excitement they're bringing to the hurling world. When kids watch hurling, say when they see the Premier League stars, they're I suppose they're their role models. But when you see this, then I'd say it quickly changes. You forget about the Ronaldos, the Messis, the Klopps. You're thinking about Bubbles, you're thinking about Seamus Callan, you're thinking of all these guys. So I suppose that's what I admire of him. It's the brilliance of him.
Good man. You're off to train the under-7s, I hear, is that right?
No, I have a match, so I have about 5 minutes to get down there and give them the team talk.
Sorry, so. I thought you were. I literally just told you training the under-7s. You have a match, right? We'll let you run. Thanks a mil.
Okay, thank you.
Tommy Walsh there. Nicky English still with us. So, I mean, we wondered, Nicky. I mean, we were all impressed with their performance last week, and certainly your sense when we spoke last Monday was this was the real deal, and they've backed that up in every way.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Tipperary as well. I saw yesterday. I'm very impressed with their work rate, really. Seamus Callan probably didn't have his best day yesterday, but one moment in the first half where he chased down Stephen O'Keefe, the Waterford goalie, and got a bit of a hook on him out over the sideline. That's great leadership, even on a day that he wasn't going well. But all around the field, they were doing the same, and their backs are very, like, James Barry is in really good shape and continued his good form from the previous week. Cathal Barrett is had a very good game. Michael Breen really stepped up in the middle of the field, scored 5 or 6 points, but showed phenomenal fitness and physique. And one point where he just galloped away from 2 or 3 Waterford fellas in the second half there was fantastic. So the work rate and attitude for me is really impressive from Tipperary. And as Tommy said, we know they have the skill, but they have the kind of the fitness and the strength to display that now. And like, they're putting up unbelievable scores, and there was no question in my mind that Waterford could put up the kind of a score that Tipperary could put up. Waterford, and in fairness to Waterford, I thought they fought hard. When they went down to 14 men, that was the end of it completely. But Patrick Curran has hit the post. They did really well to get back to 3 points, but in the second half. But the effort to do that really always had to tell. Tipperary got a bit jittery actually during that period, which might be the only little negative that we've seen over the 2 matches. But then when Jason Ford finished the goal, they just pulled away again, and they've 228, 230. It's massive scoring really, and on a day where they're going to create those amount of chances and put up that kind of a scoreline, it's going to cause a lot of teams, like, they're going to be very hard to beat. But then there are bigger tests ahead for them, because Cork were totally transformed from their previous form against Tipperary to yesterday. And Waterford, they struggled against Clare the previous week, even though they got close. So I don't think Waterford are really the barometer of where the best teams are at, and for Tipperary to have to go to Clare and then subsequently play Limerick, who might need a result in Thurles, we'll certainly know more about Tipperary, but everything we see so far is really, really good. Yeah,
Tip Limerick on the horizon, I think we're already looking forward to. So there's a gap week now, and then Waterford host Limerick. You said they were okay, Waterford, bit of fight in them, and even when they went down to 14 men, they got back to 3 points. But it's not quite happening for a second year in a row.
No, I thought there was a bit of fight in them, but I just think Waterford are struggling a bit up front, and they've moved Austin Gleeson up. He's at least located in a single position, either centre forward or wing forward for most of the game yesterday, but he's not. His contribution really is fairly minimal relative to his contribution in the year that they were in the All-Ireland final a couple of years ago, and they're just not. They're just not in the form of a couple of years ago, I don't think. And again, I think they're quite tight on numbers. You see Philip Mahoney getting injured there yesterday. So I at the same time, Walsh Park is an advantage for them. I thought that they did fight hard yesterday. They didn't give up yesterday, even though they were outnumbered. And so for that really showed to me that they have there is a bit of battle in them. And it mightn't be just the easiest place for Limerick to go, but at the same time, you'd have to fancy Limerick to beat them if Limerick come back to form.
Yeah. Just a final word then on the draw at Parnell Park. Dublin 122, Wexford 219. It was kind of a tetchy, claustrophobic type game in many ways. By half-time, it was 11 points apiece. They both had 8 wides apiece as well at that stage. It was very even. And then Dublin take control, and then Wexford come back with those goals. And then Dublin have to save it right at the death with that Sean Moran free. So Davy here was just speaking afterwards. Someone was putting it to him that the Wexford forwards look to have a fair bit of freedom around the field. They can almost pick up positions and go where they like.
Yes, that is the case. And if you end up a cornerback and if you end up at midfield, keep going. Someone else will get back into your position. Just play a hurling. Just like I would be an advocate of go out and just play a hurling. Just let go. Go where you want to go, and someone else will cover back for you. It's only a matter of someone looking around and filling in that spot, and off you go. And I think it's savage. Like, you've sharp ball, long ball, crossfield ball. You can't tell me some of the scores there today were phenomenal. Like, Yeah.
It's like Johan Cruyff, Davey. You're like Johan Cruyff of hurling, maybe total hurling.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell everybody.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want anything to happen. Go, attack the space, keep going if you want to keep going. Like, whatever it is, just go play. The lads will tell you they're free rein to do anything. Like.
Stephen Doyle there with the question as well. So, like, the Wexford approach I confused me. You hear such conflicting things, and the Matthew O'Hanlon goal would almost tie in with what Davy's talking about there, and Derek McGrath last night in the Sunday game was saying, Davy Fitzgerald fingerprints all over that goal, that he was able to just take off into the space and not worry about what was behind him. And yet you'll hear other very loud critiques of Davy's style and say it's a straitjacket and say it has its limitations and it can only take a team so far. Where are you on what Davy's trying to do at Wexford?
I thought last year it didn't work for them. The previous year it did because they had a lot of energy. So if you are playing, it's Sean Murphy that normally is sitting back there now as a sweeper. I say it really is what it is in the Wexford system. But then that gives license to the likes of Matt O'Hanlon, O'Keefe, Paddy Foley to gallop forward. Now they didn't do that at all last year. And if you think about the match that they played against Clare, they had Lee Chin and Conor McDonald, who were both in good form last year, and they weren't getting enough ball really to them. There was too much play. So I think Wexford have improved a little bit this year. I fancied them to win yesterday in Parnell Park. Now they might have been lucky to be 3 points ahead, and then unlucky to concede the goal to Sean Moran. But I think that their league form was a little bit better this year, and I use Kilkenny as a barometer for them, because when the previous year they beat Kilkenny in the Championship, the Walsh Cup and the League, and last year they lost every match to Kilkenny. Now this year they have beaten Kilkenny in the Walsh Cup and I think the League as well. So that would signal to me that they are in better form. I think Wexford can. I think if they had got a win in Parnell Park yesterday, it would have been a big result for them. The point is good, but they were in a winning position, and that would have put them in a very strong position in Leinster to get to the Leinster final, which they might still do it. But as regards their style, I'm not sure that I haven't seen much of them this year, only on TV in the league.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to ultimately judge whether they are just kind of one-dimensional or they are, as Davy saying, total hurling in the Dutch football sense. I remain to be convinced, really, but I think they possibly are in better form than Leicester and Leinster title contenders, really, I'd say.
Okay, well, we can reserve judgment for a few weeks yet. And interestingly, that draw makes the Carlow game very important for both of them. This could come down to points difference, the way things shape up. So that's the state of things in Leinster. Nicky, we'll leave it there. Thanks a mil.
Thanks, Joe.